Rich Dad, Poor Dad, faithful book summary introduction. The two voices that shaped a life. There are moments in life when a simple idea changes everything. Not because it's loud or complicated or wrapped in layers of confusion, but because it forces us to confront the silent rules we've been living by without ever realizing it. And for me, those rules were revealed through two men, two teachers, two fathers, two philosophies that could not have been more opposite. One was my biological father, a man who believed in the traditional path, the safe path, the respected path. He valued education above all, believed deeply in the security of a paycheck, and carried himself with the dignity of someone who had done everything society told him to do. He earned degrees, held important positions, and worked tirelessly. Yet despite all this, financial comfort always seemed just out of reach for him. His lessons were shaped by caution, stability, and responsibility. The other man was my best friend's father, my rich dad. He had no advanced degrees, no academic credentials, no letters behind his name. Yet he understood money in a way that few people ever do. He saw opportunities where others saw risks. He questioned the rules that people accepted as absolute. And he taught me something that fundamentally altered the course of my life, that wealth is not just about money, it's about mindset. It's about the way you see the world, the way you make decisions, and the way you choose to respond when presented with a choice that could change everything. Growing up between these two men was like living between two realities. On one side, a belief in stability. On the other, a belief in freedom. One taught me how to survive. The other taught me how to grow. And it is through their contrasting lessons that the core ideas of Rich Dad, Poor Dad emerge. This is the story of how those lessons shape my understanding of money, work, and life, and how they can reshape yours as well. Chapter 1. The rich don't work for money. The first time Rich Dad told me that the rich don't work for money, I thought he was joking. Everyone worked for money. Everyone needed a paycheck. That's what adults did. That's what my real father always talked about. Work hard, earn your living, build a good reputation, and your effort will be rewarded. But Rich Dad shook his head at that idea. He explained that most people become trapped by the very thing they pursue. They work for money, they become dependent on the paycheck, and that dependency shapes every decision they make for the rest of their lives. They choose security over growth. They choose comfort over opportunity. They choose predictability over possibility. And because of that, they never learn how to make money work for them. He said that true wealth begins not with action, but with awareness. It begins with noticing the difference between working for money and letting money work for you. He wanted me to understand the emotional patterns that control people, fear and desire. Fear of being broke, desire for comfort. Fear that they won't have enough. Desire for things that make them feel secure or important or successful. He told me that the moment you chase money out of fear, you lose power. And the moment you chase luxury out of desire, you lose focus. The path to wealth requires breaking the cycle that most people never escape. Instead of asking, how can I earn more? You begin to ask, how can I create something that earns for me? That shift, he said, was the first major step toward financial freedom. Chapter 2. The importance of financial literacy. Poor Dad believed in education. Get good grades, get a good job, climb the ladder. He wanted stability for me because stability is what he valued. But Rich Dad argued that traditional education prepares you to be a good employee, not a knowledgeable investor. It teaches you how to follow instructions, not how to evaluate opportunity. It prepares you to earn, not to grow. Rich Dad taught me that what you know matters far more than what you earn. Without financial literacy, money slips through your fingers no matter how much of it you make. People think their income is the key to wealth, but it's not. Wealth begins with what you actually keep and what you do with what you keep. He explained the difference between assets and liabilities in a way no school ever had. To most people, an asset is simply something they own. But in his world, The definition was far sharper. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. That single distinction reshapes everything. A house that you live in, most of the time, that's a liability. It costs money every month. A car, definitely a liability. Designer clothes, a liability. But a rental property, that's an asset. A business that functions without your day-to-day involvement, an asset. Stocks that pay dividends, an asset. Intellectual property, an asset. He told me that wealthy people focus on acquiring assets. Everyone else focuses on acquiring liabilities they mistakenly call assets. And that misunderstanding is why so many people work their entire lives without ever building true financial security. He pushed me to think in terms of cash flow, not possessions. He wanted me to understand that wealth isn't measured by how much you own, but how much your assets produce. It's not about what you look like on paper. It's about what your money does when you are not working. Chapter 3. Mind your own business. One of the boldest statements Rich Dad ever made was this: the moment you rely entirely on a job, you are putting your future into someone else's hands. He didn't mean that jobs were bad. He meant that jobs are inherently limited. They cap your income. They limit your time. They restrict your potential. And they leave you vulnerable to decisions beyond your control. He encouraged me to develop my own business, even while working jobs. He wanted me to see myself as a financial engine, not an employee. Your job is your short-term income. Your business, your investments, your assets is your long-term freedom. He explained that most people work harder for someone else's dream than they ever do for their own. Corporations grow because employees pour their time and energy into them. Yet, those employees rarely invest the same energy into building assets for themselves. He told me that minding your own business means focusing on your personal financial growth, regardless of what you do for work. It means putting aside a portion of your earnings to invest in something that belongs entirely to you, something that will grow whether you are on the clock or not. Chapter 4. The history of taxes and the power of corporations. Rich Dad loved history. Not the kind you read in school, but the kind that explains how money moves through society. He taught me that understanding taxes wasn't just about compliance, it was about strategy. He explained that taxes were originally designed to target the rich. But over time, the burden shifted toward the middle class. Why? Because the rich learned how to use laws to their advantage. They use corporations. They use structures. They use financial understanding to reduce their tax burdens legally, effectively, and strategically. He broke it down this way: employees earn, get taxed, and then spend what's left. Corporations earn, spend, and get taxed on what remains. That difference alone creates massive opportunities for those who understand the system. He taught me that a corporation isn't just a building or a large company. It can be a simple structure that allows you to protect your wealth, reduce your taxes, and create financial leverage. He wanted me to think like the wealthy, not because it was rebellious, but because it was empowering. Money isn't emotional. Systems aren't emotional. Those who learn how both work gain an advantage that changes their financial trajectory forever. Chapter 5. The Rich Invent Money. One of the most transformative lessons Rich Dad taught me was that wealth rarely comes from what you are handed. It comes from what you create. The rich invent money because they see opportunities other people overlook. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for the right job, the right moment, or the right market. They act. He taught me that opportunity is often invisible to the untrained eye. Most people are too busy working, too stressed about bills, too worried about stability to notice openings that could change their lives. The wealthy train themselves to notice patterns, to anticipate shifts, and to move decisively. He pushed me to study investments, markets, deals, and trends. He told me that wealth building is not gambling. It's not luck. It's preparation meeting opportunity. And the more prepared you are, the more opportunities you see. He said the world is full of money, but most people never learn how to access it because they cling to comfort over courage. They protect themselves from risk instead of learning how to manage it. He wanted me to understand that financial intelligence is the ability to see what others cannot, to create value where others see fear, to step into uncertainty not recklessly, but skillfully. Chapter 6. Work to learn, not to earn. Poor Dad believed deeply in specialization. Become good at one thing, climb the ladder, become an expert. That was the path he followed, and he believed it was the safest and most respectable path available. Rich Dad believed the opposite. He said specialization traps people. It narrows their options. It makes them dependent. Instead, he encouraged me to learn broadly, to understand sales, marketing, investing, accounting, communication, strategy, and leadership, because each skill builds on the others, creating a foundation of versatility that opens doors no job title ever could. He pushed me to take jobs not for the paycheck, but for the lessons they offered. He said you can't manage an investment if you don't understand numbers. You can't build a business if you don't understand people. You can't seize opportunities if you don't understand how money flows. He told me that the most valuable skill anyone can learn is the ability to sell ideas, products, solutions, vision. Not manipulation, but communication. The ability to express value clearly and confidently. He explained that the world doesn't pay you for what you do. It pays you for the problems you solve. And the more skills you have, the bigger the problems you are capable of solving. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. Rich Dad taught me that everyone wants to be rich, but few ever achieve it because they are stopped by the same internal barriers. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. He explained that fear of losing money is universal. Even wealthy investors feel it. The difference is how they respond. Average people let fear paralyze them. Wealthy people let fear educate them. They learn from failure instead of avoiding it. Cynicism, he said, is another dream killer. People talk themselves out of opportunity before they even begin. They focus on what could go wrong, not what could go right. They let doubt whisper them into inaction. Laziness disguises itself as busyness. People claim they don't have time to learn, to invest, to think, but they have time for distractions, for entertainment, for consumption. Wealth requires intention, energy, and a willingness to take responsibility for your future. And arrogance, believing you already know everything, blinds you to learning. Rich Dad told me that humility is one of the greatest assets a person can have because it keeps you curious, it keeps you open, it keeps you growing. He wanted me to understand that obstacles aren't walls, they're signals. Signals that growth is near. Signals that the next step requires courage. Chapter 8. Getting started. Rich Dad believed that the hardest part of wealth building is simply beginning. Most people spend their lives preparing to start instead of actually starting. They wait for the right moment. They wait for savings to increase. They wait for markets to change. They wait for the economy to stabilize. They wait for certainty. And while they wait, their future slips through their fingers. He told me that getting started begins with a choice, a decision to commit, a decision to learn, a decision to take small strategic steps consistently. Wealth is not one big leap. It's 1,000 small moves in the right direction. He said the moment you decide to become financially literate, opportunities begin to reveal themselves. The moment you decide to invest in yourself, the world changes around you. The moment you decide to study money, money begins to respond. He encouraged me to start small, buy a book, save a little, invest a little, ask questions, attend a seminar, track expenses, review financial statements, speak with investors, step into conversations that challenge you. He said, action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds expertise, and expertise builds wealth. Chapter 9. Still want more. Here's how to keep growing. Rich Dad believed that wealth is not an achievement. It is a process, a lifelong journey of learning, adjusting, and evolving. The moment you think you've arrived, you stop growing. And the moment you stop growing, your wealth begins to shrink. He encouraged me to surround myself with people who were smarter, more experienced, more ambitious. He said, your financial future is shaped heavily by the people you listen to. Listen to those who fear risk, and you will become cautious. Listen to those who embrace opportunity, and you will become bold. He pushed me to stay curious, to stay alert, to stay open to change. He believed the world is constantly shifting, and only those who evolve with it truly succeed. He told me that the ultimate goal isn't just to become rich. The goal is to become free. Free from fear, free from limitation, free from dependency, free to choose how you spend your time, your energy, your life. That level of freedom doesn't come from a job. It doesn't come from a paycheck. It comes from building assets that generate income regardless of where you are or what you are doing. It comes from understanding money instead of fearing it. It comes from mastering the rules instead of being controlled by them. Conclusion. A new way to see the world. The lessons from Rich Dad and Poor Dad are more than financial principles. They are two fundamentally different worldviews, one rooted in safety, the other rooted in possibility. One focused on stability, the other focused on growth. One centered on earning, the other centered on creating. Through their contrasting philosophies, I learned that wealth is not accidental. It is intentional. It is built through awareness, discipline, curiosity, and courage. It is built through understanding the difference between assets and liabilities, through choosing learning over comfort, through seeing money as a tool, not a master. And now, with this knowledge in your hands, the next step is yours. You can choose the traditional path, or you can choose the path of financial intelligence. You can continue working for money, or you can begin the journey of learning how to make money work for you. The future depends not on what you earn, but on what you know. Not on what you own, but on what you build. Not on who signs your paycheck, but on who shapes your mindset. Two fathers, two philosophies, one choice, and the power to choose is now yours.